Two, one.
Long time no see. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Mr. Josh?
Okay.
All right. So, on today's agenda, we have media and political polarization to discuss.
Yes. For one, that's a very broad topic, and I think the first way we can step into that is to understand how media first polarizes the population. And I think the biggest way is one that media is economically driven, right?
Mhm.
All these news agencies, these are institutions that
Yeah.
have investors. They need to make quotas, and to make money, they have to get as much viewers as possible.
Right.
And the best way of doing that is polarization. Like we see that everywhere.
Yeah, we do. And I do think that media often exaggerates extremities to instill fear into the population so that they're forced to pick a side.
Yes, that's 100% true, because it's been proven. If you take like a group of people, right, and then you give them two scenarios, right, that will completely change their life, and of different size, right, and we can step right into it right away of politics, of Trump, right, who's going to remove all of women's rights, which is obviously
Right.
exaggerated by the left, and then Kamala Harris, who's going to instill price management, and which will turn America into a communist state. That is also that's an exaggeration of the right. And then what's going to happen is you're going to see that group of people is going to pick one of those two things, right?
Mhm.
And whichever one would affect more of their life, right? They will choose against it. And then suddenly that one group of people you had suddenly split in two.
Right.
It's not the media isn't telling honest responses, because if the media really did tell that Donald Trump, right, who isn't like such a horrible felon,
Yes.
and if they said he was removing abortion, I mean that's lingers on to a lot of issues, but it's not as bad, and then people will think twice of what their decision is, and versus just over one thing.
Right.
So
I guess I just have this one question. Do you think that politicians like to get involved with how media polarizes the population?
yes, because in a way they have to. In modern times, right? Media is so integrated into our lives, right? That politicians will be called out by people to respond or give their opinion on something. So when the politicians themselves, right, take sides in already polarized situations, like we can say Gaza versus Israel, right?
Right.
Palestinians are claiming there's a genocide. When there was a terrorist attack on Israel, now that's an already polarized situation. Now, when a politician is forced to by the general population, by the media, right, they are asked to on what their opinion is on a polarized topic that may not have anything to do with politics, and they are forced to give an opinion, then them too they become polarized in their party, right? Because then suddenly, if Trump says and he's asked, "What's your opinion on Gaza versus Israel?" And then he gives his opinion and he's pro-Israel, then now suddenly every single person, every single fanatic who's pro-Palestine, right, it will go crazy and be like, "Oh, I hate Trump," and that polarizes it immediately.
Okay. So also, do you think that politicians use celebrities to politically polarize the general population?
Yes, 100%. I wouldn't say they use them to purposely politically polarize, but to gain viewers, which polarizes. And the matter they do that, again, as I said before, they are these news agencies, these are institutions, and they want to make money, and to do that, they need to get as much viewers as possible. And a great way of doing that is to get celebrities to spread this news for them. And then people look up to these celebrities as role models. So they will they will likely follow or favor what their role model is looking for. Like my sister is a Taylor Swift fanatic,
Yeah.
and if Taylor Swift says anything, then my sister would go crazy over it.
Right.
Like if she jumps off a cliff, my sister, like God forbid.
Why do you think that people enjoy putting themselves in positions where they are conflicting with the people around them, especially in political fields?
That's a very good question. I think um, that can be also explained by in psychology. For example, Freud, he 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 made many statements where he said that people are attracted to two groups and to form groups for survival. Because in the past, right, like if you look at Native Indians, they formed groups like the Inuit and whatnot. Yeah, they had different maybe a little cultural background, and they immigrated together, but they did this as a form of protection because when they're in a larger group, psychologically they felt protected and they were protected. So it's an evolutionary advantage. And now the same goes in life, right? So when people are given the opportunity to make a group and sort of friends where they have a purpose and have a connection to them, they will join it. And that's why people are so strongly connected and involved in these huge political demonstrations. Of like we saw the storming of the White House with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right? That was crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that was because these people felt a person greater. And Freud talks about that.
Okay. So why do you think people are emotionally driven to pick sides?
That's because people's emotional attachment and the feeling they get, especially in politics, on their side, that's driven by media, and that's completely caused by media. Because when media instills a twist in information, you can call it, right? Where they're very biased, and they will impose a certain emotion, right? Trump supporters was angry, right? Through a lot. I think in the recent election, it actually went to hope to make America great again. But before that, again, storming the White House. That was a bunch of very angry people who were devoted to what they're saying is they're going to save, not save America. That was more recent election, but they thought the Democratic Party would kill America, right? So that's them. And then we can say Kamala Harris and a lot of their motives. But yeah.
That concludes our podcast. I just have one more question for you before we go. How can we de-escalate the polarization between two sides of an argument? Like, for example, let's say a pro-Trump and a pro-Kamala. Let's say, how can we de-escalate that situation? Because we know very well that one side hates the other in that specific situation. So how can we depolarize, I guess, in a sense, that situation?
That's a very good question. And again, I think that ties into the issue with the media. Once, like this has been proven, once someone takes a side, right, it's going to be very difficult for them to drift away from it because they will always favor it. It's like when your mother tells you when you're a child that if you swallow a piece of gum, it'll stay in your gut for 7 years. That is absolutely not true, but you'll still favor that belief. You'll still believe it, even if it'll linger in the back of your mind.
Also spread that belief too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we look at media constantly twisting and being so biased, then when you look for a news source that may not be polarized, it'll be polarized on the other end, and it wouldn't make sense to you. You wouldn't believe what they're denying on the other side. The left and the right will deny the left, and the left will continuously deny the right. And then people, without the de-escalation, basically, of the media, I do not think politically two different sides could be unionized. If that answers your question.
Thank you. That concludes our little podcast.
Amazing.
Thank you very much. This has been just amazing.
Yes, it's been amazing.